BGK 24/7 online Christian TV network. Making what was once impossible, possible.
Hi, this is Apostle Dr. Sonia Stinson, and I thank you for coming into our studios and tuning in to the Rural Channel, Dinner Table Conversations on BGK, our partners. We are so excited that you take time out of your day, wherever you are on your mobile phones, on your computers, just to come in and listen to these awesome men and women of God who have so much for the kingdom, and as they are impacting the kingdom of God. Today, we have an awesome woman of God. But before we say that, I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. We know that we're in the holiday season, and we recognize that there are some things that individuals who are single need to hear. And so today is why I have this wonderful young woman of God on. Her name is Prophetess Latoya Deshawn, and she is an awesome woman of God. She has written a book called Single Christian Girls in the City, and we're going to sort of just dive in this book and expound on it. But first, let's get her into our studios. Welcome, Latoya. How are you doing?
Hi, Apostle. How are you?
Yes, and I am so excited. God bless. I am so excited to have you today, especially during this season of festivities. And what we find, individuals who are single sometimes get saddened, depressed because they don't have someone with them, a husband, which is what the Word of God says. And when I read your book and heard about your book, Single Christian Girls in the City, I was just excited because what I like about it is that you are someone single talking to single individuals. You're not married, but you're talking to single individuals, and you have experienced the journey and you continue to be on the journey. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to our studio audience today.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Latoya, Prophetess Latoya Deshawn. I am a member of the Master's Touch Church. I've been blogging and writing since I rededicated my life to God. And
yes.
It has been one journey. I always say the most riskiest thing you can do is put your life in God's hands, and you're gonna go for a wild ride. And it has been one ride that will never be uncapped. Definitely.
Well, one thing you wrote in your book is that when you did your first blog, you said that you were just amazed at how many individuals just responded and chimed in. What amazed you about that? What was the significant and amazing? That's one of the first things you put in, but you were just amazed. You were just writing, and just one day you decided to create a blog for singles. But you said that when you did do that, just people started inboxing you and asking you questions and want to get on the journey. What was the insight that God gave you when you started that first blog that led to this Single Christian Girls in the City book?
Writing is one of the ways I do communicate with God. It's the way I'm very fluid and transparent and authentic. I feel so comfortable because it's a gift that He gave me, and I feel worship is giving God His breath back, and giving His breath back is a gift that He gave me. I'm supposed to use it to give back to Him. So I wanted to introduce writing all over again in a sense of, hey, this is a great way to communicate with God. It's intimate. It's between me and Him. And I wanted to share it with the world. And I kind of figured nobody's really going to pay me any attention. Who wants to read? Who wants to write anymore? we're in a new generation. The millennials, we want everything quick. Instant gratification is immediate with us right now. So who wants to open up a blog post and read something for 2 or 3 minutes? But I kept listening to God, and I kept obeying, and I went ahead and started, and I created my first blog on Tumblr. That's where my stomping grounds are. That's where I created it. And I was blown away by the numbers that came in and the emails on how did you turn back and how did you get back? What did you do? What did you give up? I mean, it was so many questions. I was a little bit overwhelmed because I didn't even think anybody would even pay any attention when I had posted on Facebook.
So, and you write about that at your first book. You write about that, and that one of the things you said that you started in 2018 with your first blog. And what you admittedly say is that this was not an easy journey for you. It was not an easy decision. Why do you think when we decide to be celibate that it is not an easy decision? And you write a lot about it a bit, but one of the first things you talk about is that for you personally, you didn't want people to be fooled that it was not an easy journey.
Right now, the celibacy thing, people make it seem like it's so easy. You're gonna get a husband immediately, and it seems like it's gonna wipe all your issues away.
Mm-hmm.
Start by next year, February of next year, I'll be celibate for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was not my intent. That I didn't look at it that way. But during the first year of my celibacy, God dealt with me, and He dealt with what my real motive was. Is your motive to get a husband, or is your motive to please me? And that reflection really convicted me. And it also put me back on the shelf with my desires, because He challenged me and let me know this is an idol, and we're going to deal with this. We're going to tear it down.
Wow. So one of the things you just said so profoundly, that when we are celibate, or when we become celibate, or singles become celibate, one of the first things that we think about is we're going to get a husband. And you note this in your book, that there were individuals around you that were getting husbands, but you still didn't get a husband. And is that an advice you would give to someone? Because a lot of people that I hear celibate, well, I'm going celibate because I know God's going to send me my husband very soon. And sometimes that may not be so. He may not send you your husband very soon. And so what would you tell single women, especially during this season, because they want that big ring, they want and by always, the Bible is very clear. Man should not be alone. Two are better than one. We know all of those. We know all of those scriptures. But what would you tell someone who, because in this season that we're in, women tend to give in because they want others to believe, and you have in your book, we'll get to that, that they do have somebody, but really important when you're following God.
Well, with me, it was, I like you said, like I mentioned in my book, I saw women getting married. Some girls would go celibate, and 3 months later, their charming came. And I'm like, well, what's going on with me, God? And the thing was, I felt entitled. Mm-hmm. It was a sense of self-righteousness. I felt entitled to a godly man because I'm doing this. I was like, I'm following his principles, but my attitude towards his principles is what's caused that pause. He was like, you're still broken in areas. I need to blow away some residue. I need to make you whole in areas where you're not triggered by certain things that happen from just not your childhood, but from even when in your 20s, when you've made so many mistakes that I have forgiven. But I want you to go into a marriage whole. And that's my thing with that. That's my biggest message to millennial women and to the younger generation under me. It's, you want to be whole when you get into a relationship or when you begin courting. You want to be whole. You don't want to have very easy triggers that can just become all type of speed bumps while you're in the city dating.
And what made you the title? I love it. Single Christian Girls in the City, a celibate journey. How did you come up with that title? What did God download that to you, or was that something that there was a big epiphany, or how did you come down with that title?
So in 2018, like fall around this time, 2018, I wrote a blog called Single Christian Girl in the City. It was just a blog post. I had no idea, Apostle, it was going to get so much attention. At that time, I was in the midst of despair. I had just got out of a relationship with a guy, and I was like, I'm saved, and I exited the relationship with my virtue. So I was very happy about that, but I was still broken because I had feelings. My feelings were there. And like you said, God downloaded that to me so quickly, and I just got to write it. And it was like I wanted to give my girls a clue, a key in on dating in the city, especially within the Christian ecosystem. Like, it's not as easy as we thought it would be. You know, that man of God that comes into the picture may not be a man of God. He may be a boy of God. And I was just writing, and it was just pouring out, and I was literally trying to pull people into what I was currently dealing with at the time. And it was a rave. And I mean, I had women from all over the country like, oh, this is me. Me and my girls are having these issues right now. We love that you said, may the odds be forever in your favor. Because dating is not easy in the secular world. And we have this foolish notion that it would be even easier within the Christian ecosystem. And the biggest problem is everybody isn't practicing celibacy. They're not pure. They're not practicing purity. They don't have that heart posture. They're not respecting their body and their vow with God.
And you make that very clear in the book, and we're going to get to these 10 points, but you make it so clear that everybody, even, and you were so amazed that even in Christian dating, that you said that even some of them were so turned off because you had made a decision to be celibate. And I have witnessed that. When you make that decision to be celibate, many men, Christian men, and women don't understand that journey. They have a tough time, but they will say, I'm a Christian and I understand, until their body begins to say, well, enough is enough. I think we need to try these shoes on. Try the shoes on before you buy them. You've heard that phrase, right? How would you give women advice that in this season that we're in, because this is going to be a very tough season for those who have been in relationships and are now chosen to be celibate? They may be in it 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 6 years, however. Before we get into the book, what advice would you give someone, even you say in this that you may end up leaving social media and some of the social platforms for a while? Do you think that's a good idea? Because when they see their other friends getting married, there is the depression or sadness that may set in.
It does, and I've been there, and I've had to exit social media for a couple weeks, and it wasn't that I was jealous, it wasn't that I was envious, it was more of that was a trigger. That was something God had to deal with me with. You can't be happy for other people when I bless them because it's not your turn. So it's a reflect. Celibacy is a reflection. It's a mirror. It causes you to see just you. There's nobody else but you and God. And during this season, this is a perfect season to really get reacquainted with God. This celibacy journey, it's an encounter. It's a daily decision. You make a decision daily. I'm gonna keep myself. I'm gonna keep my covenant with God. If God doesn't require so much from us, but we ask everything of Him. So being pure for my single season until He brings my soulmate, or I would like to say my purpose mate, then why can't I just do that?
Right. I like that, purpose mate. You don't call it a soulmate because you talk about soul ties in this book. But now let's go to day one. You talk about motives, because a lot of times, are our motives wrong for being celibate? Is it something that we want people to really celebrate? Oh, she's celibate. If it's something that we're doing because we want to attract the person, because it's a catchphrase. I'm celibate. And maybe the person or the male or the opposite sex believe that you're safe because, for quote unquote, and this is an adult show, you're not sleeping around. So that it's a buzzword. It's a good word to say, oh well, I'm celibate, and for a while it's okay with the opposite sex. But you say motives, and so you said here, and I underlined something. One thing for sure, celibate will test your heart and your motives. Okay, you said that in your book and said, by the 8th month, I was intentionally screaming, any time now, God, I have been faithful. Little did I know my hidden motives and self-righteousness placed my desires on a pause. So that was I underlined that. So you said by the 8th month, you were just screaming, anytime, Lord, I'm sort of holding to my promise. I'm sort of, God, you're not holding to yours. But then you said that in the book that you had to examine your motives as to why you went celibate.
Exactly. The first couple of months was challenging. Well, it was challenging with me. It was a wrestle, like Jacob. It was a wrestle with me and God. But on the outside, I was looking like I had everything under control. I was like, oh, I'm celibate. I was attracting more men than I had ever attracted. The more I told people I was celibate, the more men came. And I was like, oh no, I'm celibate. No, I don't do those things. And it was every time, every encounter, God just kept checking me. It was a check. Why are you doing it? Are you doing this for me, or are you doing this to get praise from others? Are you seeking validation from others? Because you should be only doing this between me and you. This is a covenant.
Mm-hmm. And so when you wrote chapter 1, motive, you said the temptation will torture you because your heart wasn't anchored to the agreement. Be honest with yourself and God before you make a vow. And so you meant that, because like you say, just like that, when you say you're celibate, it seems like they come out of the woodworks, but you have to check your heart. Was that your motive to draw other people? So what is the real motive? In day 1, you talk about what is the real motive? Why are you celibate? Are you really seeking God's answer, or are you doing it because you want everybody to know? Should we mention we celibate? When should that happen as a single? Does it have to even be mentioned?
I've learned it doesn't, because when you dating a man that's also celibate, it's already a mutual agreement. It doesn't even have to be said, because it's already being practiced by both parties. I found myself having to say it when I'm dating men that are outside of the will of God.
Okay. And so so we have to be very careful as single Christians that we're not mingling with men that are outside of the will of God. Would you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. It just brings more turmoil.
Yeah. And then in day 2, you say soul ties. And I really want to get to this because I read it and I had to say something. I said, oh, real good. You said an ungodly soul tie carries the power to convince you to accept the counterfeit. Oh my God. Over the promise. The ungodly soul tie carries the promise to convince you to accept the counterfeit over the promise. Ungodly soul tie creates impotence that can derail your destiny and your purpose. You should have put that up, especially during this season, because you said that it is a counterfeit, and it's a counterfeit. Let's elaborate on that a little bit. It is a counterfeit. Why would you tell single women in the city, single Christian women, I want to be clear, single Christian women in the city, that is a counterfeit, okay? And it calls you to break the promise that you have with God.
Well, because you can fall, your flesh is always weak.
Yes.
Your flesh will always betray you. Mm-hmm. Your emotions are fickle. So if not practicing celibacy, you lack that discernment, and you can fall prey to a counterfeit, and you would end up rendering that promise, and and you would end up being like the Israelites, where they were begging for a king, and God was like, yeah, but it's me. They were begging for a king. They went ahead and gave him Saul, and Saul was gorgeous. He was the people's man. He was the it one.
Yes.
But he messed up. So then he had to go find somebody else, and then we got David. So I'm finding so many Christian women falling for Saul because of the looks. They're falling for that outer frame, and they're not waiting for the promise. They're not waiting for the one that carries God's heart. They're not waiting for the one that carries his mindset, the one that will value you and not just see you.
Wow. Well, listen, I'm going to come back to that comment, but listen, I just want everyone to know you have tuned in to Dinner Table Conversations with Apostle Dr. Sonia Stinson on BGK Network. We are so happy that you have come into our studios. Listen, if you have not downloaded our mobile app, please do so at this time. It will allow you to listen to us while on the go, and wherever you go, you can get it from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. Also, if you want to reach out to me, you can call me at my toll-free number at 1-866-200-9850. 866-200-9850. We are always looking for broadcasters. If you want to expand your ministries, just give us a call. Listen, let's get back to Prophetess Latoya Smith. You said something so profound, that the counterfeit. And right now we can be very so fooled as women, single women, because we want that outer appearance. We want to be like our girlfriends, and we want to show, oh, I've got some, as I call, a bow on my shoulder. And you talk about that the poor decisions will cost you shame, rejection, deception, betrayal, and abuse to become a cocoon, but his salvation will set you free. You really talk about the fact that we have to be very careful about accepting the counterfeit, and we have to wait on God in order to that. So in the next chapter, on day 3, you says, with that, you need to discern. And so you say in discern, you say, acknowledge my worth while having keen discernment gave me the strength to reject what wasn't for me. When you begin to acknowledge who you are, do you give that advice to all single women that we have to get to a place where we know who we are? We know what we're worth. We know what we bring to the table. It has nothing about my bank account or anything, but I'm a godly Christian woman. I know what I bring to the table. How would you advise a single person right now that's out there struggling, and they're struggling with their worth, they're struggling with rejection, and this is a season where they can get so depressed because everybody around them, the Christmas party, they have someone, and they say, who you bringing? I'm not bringing anybody. And there's no shame in that.
It's none. It's no shame in that. I've gone to plenty of places by myself, and I was the life of the party. I was able to mingle. This is a season where you're dancing with your king. He's gonna twirl you right into the arms of the one that he has for you. But meanwhile, dance with your king. Enjoy this time, because your life is gonna change drastically when you get married. When your worship changes when you get married.
Yes, it does.
The way you move changes when you get married. That's why he wants your undivided attention at this moment, because this moment you get to see you. You get to see how others perceive you. You get to learn that you're not just enough. You're more than enough. You're the apple of his eye. And when you start realizing who you mean to him, what you mean to him, it's this confidence that eludes from you. People see it when you enter into the room. Your happiness, you now appear as a glory carrier, because now you know who you are in Christ. So now can't nobody tell you what you're not. Not a man, not a woman, not a child, not a bug. Nobody can tell you what you aren't in your Father's eyes. But you can only learn that when you take full advantage of this single season, because it's not in vain. It's not.
Yeah. And so, and to get to that, you said celibacy enhances your spiritual sight. While dating in the city, one needs to have discernment to differentiate the real from the fake. And I think that that's such a good statement, because when we know who we are, we know our worth, we know we can celebrate who we are with somebody or without somebody. You can then determine the fake from the real, and because you will have your eyes so set on what God wants you to have, you'll say, nah, that's fake. Nah, go on. But what you give that advice, they have to, because when you celebrate, like you say, it's a time of worship. You gotta bring insight to you where you're able to differentiate the fake from the real. Let's expound a little bit on that.
Absolutely. My taste in men changed once I fully embraced celibacy. What I thought was hot and fine, and I like the way he walked, I like the way he talked. Now it's a turnoff. You can't approach me like that, because now, because I know who I am, you can't approach me any kind of way. You got to come to me the way my Father allowed you to come to me.
Mm-hmm. And then you say as principals.
And you can tell the language is different.
Oh, why is the language different, Story? Why is the language different? Talk about that. Okay. Why do you think the language is different?
Well, from my experience, the language is different because with the experience, I can tell when a man just sees me from my outer.
Okay, so talk about that.
He only speaks to my flesh. That's when you'll be able to decipher. He only speaks to your flesh. But when he don't speak to that spirit, when he doesn't speak to you to make you want to continue your celibacy journey, when he has every motive to separate you from what you've been doing, it's a no. That's how you're able to decipher. That language tells you that when the word isn't coming out of his mouth. David says his word is written on my heart. When your word, when God's word is in you, it comes out. You're a whale. It's coming out. It eludes out. So if he's not speaking from the spirit, then I mean he only speaking to your flesh. So it's only going to be temporary how far that goes anyway.
Right. And who's to know that he's really not a man or a woman of God? Who's to know? That's where you talk about the real and the fake. Well, listen, I think we got a little bit more time to talk about I believe it's day 4, where you talk about commitment. Now here is what I like. You said you talk about poverty. Poverty isn't just a lack of finance. You can lack in many areas, spiritual and natural. Oh, I hear my producer. I don't want to get into this. We'll probably do this in part 2. But okay. What do you think? What do you say about spiritual and natural? You talk about that we think of poverty as a financial thing, but it's not. So when you come back into our studios next week, we're going to lead off on chapter on day 4, because I really want to talk about poverty. But we've talked a lot. Can you tell all the single Christian girls in the city how to get this book and how to connect with you during this season?
Absolutely. You can reach me on all my social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, Latoya Deshawn. My blog is www.covenantlifestyle.com, and that's where you can find my book. You can download it from Apple. You can download it from Blurb, which is blurb.com, which is a link on my website as well. And then you can also get a print copy. You can also get a print copy on Amazon, which everyone loves this one because it has space for you to journal and write your own path.
Well, thank you for being our guest today. We will have you back next week in our studios because we want to do part 2. God bless you all for coming into the studios today. We are just so happy that you have taken time out. I never take it for granted that you've tuned in to Dinner Table Conversations with Apostle Dr. Sonia Stinson on the Ruah channel. We are just so grateful that you take your time to tune in. We thank you, but tell a friend, tell somebody else to connect with us. Listen, don't forget to download our BGK mobile app from any Google Apple store. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can either go to my website at www.Sonia Stinson Ministries, or you can call me toll free at 1-866-200-9850. Again, that's 1-866-200-9850. If you're ready to expand your ministry and take it to the next level, give us a call. We have room for you. We have space for you. We know that God is going to be activating some new things. So give us a call. Give us a call at BGK. Just look us up, www.bgknetwork.org. Until next week, again, Dr. Sonia Stinson, contact me at 1-866-200-9850. Until next week, we'll talk to you. God bless you.
Matthew House comes from the scripture, Matthew 25:35. I was a stranger and you took me in. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was in prison and you came to visit me. That's how we developed Matthew House. 3 African-American men who had the compassion and the love of people, who are all veterans. My name is Dr. Sonia Ricketts Stinson, and I am the executive director and the CEO of Matthew House.
Right now we're in the common room, which is also named as the day room. This is where most of our clients eat during the daytime. This is where they can watch TV. This is where they can socialize.
Hi, my name is Kirsten Dickens. I work as a nurse practitioner and one of the providers at Heartland Alliance Health. So here, Heartland Alliance has a number of outreach sites around the city, so linkage agreements with certain sites where we take our typical outpatient clinic model and bring it in to specific outreach sites, Matthew House being one of them.
Or they can go and get their public entitlement benefits, or helping with a storage bid, supplying the blankets, or supplying the toiletries. Cleaning supplies is something we take for granted. All the things that we have to get done. There's building maintenance that we have to take care of. There's the supported service at the program staff who have to definitely be here from 12 hours a day in order that the individuals are not in the heat and they're not in the cold. So we need your help. We need your financial support.
We need volunteers. You can go to our website at MatthewHouseChicago.org. There's a donation button, but most of all, we need funds. We need all that we can get to fix this building because these people need a place to be.
And I'm glad I'm here, and I will continue to be here until I'm not here anymore.